Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello everyone and welcome to our today's lesson. Inshallah, today we are going to cover the following, which is Unit 6, Lesson 3, page 84. Of course, this is actually the title of this unit, which is Lost and Found. And of course, we'll focus on grammar. Inshallah, today we are going to cover the following. Of course, we have different topics. Let us go over the title of this lesson, which is using where and when an adjective clauses. Let us, guys, introduce the clause and what is the clause. Of course, a clause is something that actually consists of subject, verb, object, and of course, it's the same as we do in the regular sentence. But of course, it's actually special with some words. If we, for example, go over this part, which is actually our today's lesson, as you see here, where is used to modify a place in an adjective clause. Where cannot be omitted. Of course, we use this actually tool, which is where, to modify something or to modify the place, okay, of such a thing. So if we look here, guys, we can find that this is actually the example, which is last year I visited the city where McThomas treasure is said to be buried. So here we use the tool here, which is actually where, or this word, which is actually where, to modify, okay, something, which is actually, as you see here, last year I visited the city. So here we used where to describe the word city, which is actually a noun. So we use where and sometimes we use when to describe nouns. So we use them to describe nouns. And of course here we have alternatives to use where in an adjective clause, okay? So sometimes we can change the tool or the word that we use, okay, to describe a noun. So here we can use preposition, okay, plus which. So preposition plus which. Okay, if we a little bit talk about prepositions, we can have some examples. Of course, we have in, on, at, from, and other examples, just to remind you with the prepositions. So here we can make an alternative, which is actually preposition plus which. Go over this and look at this actually example, which is last year I visited the city in which, as you see here, we use a preposition which is in, and of course here we have which is actually the word that actually describing the noun, which is city. McThomas treasure is said to be buried. And of course we can use that, okay, instead of where. As you see here, we can use that or which, as we mentioned earlier, plus a preposition, as this example here. Last year I visited the city that McThomas treasure is said to be buried in. So in this part, which is the first part, we can say that we use the word or the tool where to describe a noun. So we use it to describe a noun and we call it adjective clause. And as I said, the adjective clause is actually consisted of subject, verb, object, and of course we have another sentence which is actually the main clause. This is actually about the first part. Let's go over the second part, which is when, and of course how we can use when to describe a noun. When is used to modify a noun or time in an adjective clause. When can be omitted. As you see here, this is actually the difference between when and where. And where we cannot, of course, omit the word. And of course here we can omit it, okay? So as you see here, we can, or when can be omitted. And of course here we have an example, which is last Monday was the day when I found 100 riyals bill on the street. As you see here, we used when here to describe, of course, something which is actually the Monday, which is the day that he found 100 bill on the street. So here we used when. There are alternatives to using when in an adjective clause. Of course, we can use other adjectives or use other tools, of course, to describe or modify the noun. As you see here, there are alternatives to using when an adjective clause. One can be replaced by that. As you see here, that can also be omitted. Last Monday was the day that, as you see here, between brackets, we use that instead of when. I found a 100 real bills on the street. And of course, sometimes we can use preposition plus which, as in this example, last Monday was the day on which I found 100 reals bill on the street. As you see here, guys, we use the preposition which is on plus which. Of course, this is actually used to describe or modify a noun. And of course, we can use which. We can use which instead of where. And of course, we can use that and which instead of when. Let's move to other part, guys. Of course, here we'll go over using whose in adjective clauses. Of course, we have whose, which is very important tool. And of course, we use whose in this part, which is actually talking about. As you see here, guys, whose is the possessive form of who. If you still remember who, of course, it's one of the words that we actually discussed earlier. It can stand for his, her, its, and their, and is always used before a noun. So actually whose is used before a noun and cannot be omitted. So you have to note this, that who cannot be omitted, as we discussed in where and of course when. Whose can be either the subject or the object of an adjective clause. So here it's completely different. And when and where we discussed that we use these words actually to describe the noun. While here we use whose, of course, to be the subject or the object of an adjective clause. And let me remind you one more time that the clause or the adjective clause basically consists of subject, verb, object. So if we go over these examples, Tutankhamun was a pharaoh. His history is the most interesting to me. Tutankhamun was the pharaoh whose story is the most interesting to me. Let's make some actually comparison between this sentence and of course this one. As you see here, okay, we have this part which is actually called the main clause, and it's the same here, okay. While in this part, of course, we have another clause which is actually consists of subject, verb, object. If we go over this one, Tutankhamun was the pharaoh whose story is the most interesting. So we used whose here as a possessive of this part, and of course as a possessive of Tutankhamun as a pharaoh. The man was very happy. I found his wallet. As you see, this is actually a sentence which is actually contains of two clauses. The first one is this, and of course the second one is this. As you see here, we use whose. The man whose wallet I found was very happy. So here whose is the subject. So here whose is the subject of this sentence. Note, here we have something very important. Let us discuss this together. Do not confuse whose with who, okay? And of course here we have apostrophe and then s. So there is a big difference between whose and this one. And here, of course, we said that actually it's a position, and of course here it's completely different. Sometimes we can imagine that this one is actually who is or who has. It's actually as an abbreviation of this word. So you have to differentiate between this, and you have to be careful when you use the word whose. The woman who is coming over tonight lost her watch. So actually this one belongs to this one, okay? While here she is the woman who has lost her watch, and of course it belongs to this one. While here it's actually our job, which is she is the woman whose watch disappeared. Actually whose here is the subject of this sentence. So this is actually all about using whose in adjective clauses. For now, guys, we'll go over some exercises, which is actually very important. We'll go over something related to which and when, and of course, we'll go over something related to whose. Let's now begin here, and of course, as you see here, this is actually the question, which is combine each pair of highlighted sentences using where or when. Use the second sentence as the adjective clause. As you hear, we have one actually done for you, which is the King's Palace, and Riyadh is the palace. And of course, here we have King Salman lives. Let's see how we can combine these two sentences together. The King's Palace in Riyadh is the palace where King Salman lives. Let's go over the rest of this exercise together. And of course, I'd like you to think about each sentence of them to do them together. This is actually the first one, which is September 23rd is the day people in Saudi Arabia celebrate National Day. Of course, September 23rd is our national day as Saudis. And of course, here, this is actually the sentence after we combine them together. September 23rd is the day when people in Saudi Arabia celebrate National Day. So this is actually how we can combine this part, okay, which is the main clause with another clause which is actually consists of the words or the tools that we had discussed. Let's go over the second one. 1918 was the year the First World War ended. Of course, here we have 1918 was the year when the First World War ended. As you see here, we used when, of course, to link the first part with, and of course to describe or to modify actually this date, which is actually 1918. Of course, here we have there are websites, and of course here we have the rest of this part, and of course here we'll see how we can combine this part with the other part. There are websites where you can buy used textbooks, okay? So as you see here, we used where here to describe websites. And this part, 11:07 is the time my train arrives. 11:07 is the time that my train arrives. So here we use one of the alternatives, which is actually that. It's very important to know this, that we have alternatives to use to describe something, which is actually the adjective. Do you know a place? I can buy an electronic reader. Do you know a place where I can buy an electronic reader? Excellent, guys. Good job. Until now, we are doing a very good job. Dubai is a city. Many towers have been built. What do you think? Dubai is a city in which many towers have been built. Of course, here we have changes in some of the tenses. You have to be careful of this. And of course, here we have the second exercise, which is rewrite your answers for exercises A with an alternative way of expressing where and when clauses. The King's Palace in Riyadh is the palace in which King Salman lives. So let's go over them together. As you see here, this is actually exercise C, which is finish each sentence with an adjective clause beginning with. As you see here, we have where and when. We'll actually go over these sentences, and of course, we'll start the other part, which is actually the clause, by using where or when. Actually, this is done for you, and of course, we'll start with number one. Let's see together, guys. I'll always remember the day when I bought my first car. So here we used when to describe the day that he remembered, and of course it's actually the day he bought his first car. I like to visit places. I like to visit places. Let's see, what is this? Of course, where you can learn new things. So here we used where to describe the place that actually he learned new things. 2009 was the year. So here we'll describe the year, which is 2009. When I went to China. What about number 4, guys? Let's do it together. I'd like to attend a university where the standards are high. So here actually we used actually, I like to attend a university where, okay, we used where, of course, to describe something related to this part. I felt nervous the time. Let's see, what is it? When I had to give a presentation in front of the class. Very good, guys. Number 6, I usually eat in restaurants. What about this, which is 6? Of course, where the food is inexpensive. Of course, here we used where to describe the restaurants where it's actually inexpensive. I like to go to parks. What is this? Where I can have a picnic. I sometimes have days What is it, guys? Let's do it together. When I don't want to get out of bed. Very good. Of course, we did some of the exercises, which is actually very important and the topics that we have discussed earlier. And of course, here we have part D, which is actually combine each pair of sentences with whose, use the second sentence as the adjective clause. Here we'll focus on whose. And of course, we have this one done for you. I need to thank the classmate. I borrowed my classmate's cell phone. So I need to thank the classmate whose cell phone I borrowed. As you see here, we used whose as an adjective of this clause, which is actually the adjective clause. Of course, here we have 1 to 6. We'll go over them together and we'll see what we can do, guys. Let's go over them. Number 1, I have neighbors. Their son has the TV on loud day and night. What do you think we can change in this part? I have neighbors whose son has the TV on loud day and night. So actually here we can start from this part, which is actually the word whose. And of course, here we can consider this as a subject. And of course, then we have the rest of sentence, which it actually contains or contain of different parts, which is actually verb and object. Let's go over number 2. As the author, his books are so popular. Let's see how we can make them as one sentence. Is he the author whose books are so popular? So we use whose, of course, when we have something that we own, okay? The teacher is fantastic. I'm taking the teacher's course next semester. The teacher whose course I'm taking next semester is fantastic. As you see here, we use whose as a subject of this part. And of course, here we have, I have a friend. My friend's father is a doctor. I have a friend whose father is a doctor. You see, it's very interesting to go over these exercises. Number 5, he is the chef. His restaurant is notorious for causing food poisoning. What do you think we can make changes in this part? He is the chef whose restaurant, so this restaurant actually belongs to this chef. That's why we use whose as a subject in here. Is notorious for causing food poisoning. What about number 6? Who is the person? Their moldy sandwich is the refrigerator. Who is the person whose moldy sandwich is the refrigerator? Of course, here we have this part, which is actually to read the sentences here, and of course to circle the past word, which is actually whose or who is. Of course, here we have whose. We discussed this, and we discussed the difference between who apostrophe s and of course this one, which is whose. Let's go over these ones together. Do you know the person what the standing at the back of the class? What do you think, guys? Is it this one or this one? Let's see together. Of course, it's this one. So actually, this one is who is. So actually here we have an apostrophe, and of course this s belongs to the verb is. He is the guy notorious for borrowing money that he never repays. So actually here we have this one. Al-Khwarizmi is the mathematician, okay, 10-digit numbering system had a great impact on mathematics and arithmetic worldwide. What do you think, guys? It's actually whose, because actually all these work belongs to Al-Khwarizmi. Number 4, they want to find a secretary responsible and efficient. What do you think, guys? It's actually who is, okay? What about number 5? Professor Blake is the one taught us math for 2 years. What do you think? Very good. It's actually who is, okay? What about number 6? We have a friend. Brother is in Australia. What do you think, guys, here? Of course, whose. Excellent. Very good. Is she the woman? Wallet was lost. Let's go over this and see what's the suitable answer. Of course, it's whose. What about number 8? Amin is a poet. Poetry, both my father and I enjoy. What do you think, guys? Of course, it's whose. And of course, we have 9, which is I'd like to find out eating everyone's food. Of course, it's whose. That's all for today, guys. Thank you very much. See you soon.